From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on LALATE.
It's a big day here on LALATE of Home LALATE with your latest update about your fourth stimulus check of 2022. And I stand with Ukraine. We'll have the latest details of what's unfolding on the ground in Ukraine as Russia is now focusing its targets on Odessa. I'll have a preview of what's happening tonight on evening's LA Special Report at 1 o'clock and the refugee situation in Poland unfolding overnight and what happened to Kherson since last night's reporting on this channel about Ukraine. The latest on the battleground and the acts of aggression by Vladimir Putin. But first, we're going to go to your big money. Forced stimulus recon. The President of the United States reassuring the American people that the forced stimulus recon will become a law. He said it during the presidential address. But the breaking news today is that he wants some of your CR money. Does he dare? I have the latest details. CR for Stimulus 1.0, the opportunity to get you a $2,000 check before the Build Back Better that already has $50,000 to $60,000 of checks in there. I have the latest details across the land. Then we'll be looking at the big exciting details of SS 300 to raise your benefits up $300 more per month, gauged by inflation. But how about Jay Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, giving us great news overnight? What does that mean for you and your benefits, especially if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security and Railroad benefits? I have the latest details on home. Then we go to the situation unfolding as Brent crude surges overnight and is still surging today. It's the price of gasoline. And no matter what's going on with your stimulus, we can't have gasoline out of control. So what are the solutions? And what were the solutions today? And did the OPEC Plus countries avoid those solutions for Americans? All the latest details across the board. But this is a hybrid broadcast, and the second half of this video is all about home. And in this recording, we go back to the battleground and what's happening in Ukraine, what happened overnight, and what could happen tonight as well. We'll have a preview of what's unfolding, not only economically, social, but also the refugee situation. Very fluid situation across the board. We have all these in details in today's broadcast. If you're watching live on air at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm here in Santa Monica, California with the breaking news overseas. If you're watching at 7 o'clock tonight, it's an encore performance. But the latest details right now is that Odessa is the current target of Vladimir Putin, the beautiful Black Sea port town. And I have the latest details about how it happened in those waters outside of Odessa minutes ago. The latest breaking details as I stand with Ukraine, and the situation is unfolding dramatically by the minute. I have the latest details of what is happening and what happened in the last few minutes as you look at the beautiful town of Odessa right here. What is going on and what could happen in the next few hours. The latest breaking details start right now. Good day, everybody. You're looking at the beautiful Opera House of Odessa in Ukraine, a major port city, the most important crown jewel of Ukraine, and the situation is unfolding. We'll go to that in just a second. In the second half of this hybrid broadcast, we'll be touching on what happened with Kherson overnight and what could be happening next with Vladimir Putin. But first, we're going to start with your money back in the States. Price of Brent crude surging overnight and surging in the last few minutes. What does this mean for you, and what does it mean for your stimulus? The latest in today's recording. But the great news is the President of the United States says to the American people, forced stimulus is going to become a law. But is he trying to take some of your CR for stimulus money for himself? Well, not for himself, but for COVID. I have the latest on this breaking news report. Then we look at what the Jay Powell options were and what Jay Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, said yesterday. It's all incredible great news. And then what happens next for MSC and those incredible checks and why viewers have gone further and farther than I ever thought. When I talk about getting 3 to 5 months of rent and utilities, viewers are now getting 1 year. What's happened? And why are viewers getting hundreds of thousands of dollars to this channel in the last few days. I'm going to show you how to get these big sums of money. It's a big broadcast. I'm going to go right into this hybrid broadcast starting right now. If you're new to watching Home LALATE, the first part of the broadcast is about you and your money, and the second part of this broadcast is sometimes about the home. That's why it's called Home. But it's changed because of the acts of aggression by Vladimir Putin against Ukraine. Home is also now about home for everyone. And in the second half of this video, we'll be going to what's happening on the battleground, and I'll have my perspective and also my commentary of what can be done more to battle Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression and help the families in need. All right, let's go into Your Big Money. And Your Big Money got incredible great news this week as the President of the United States addressed the American people in the State of the Union address and said that the forced stimulus recon is going to become the law. He said more than I thought he would say. And he said that the big money that's in there will go out. In fact, he actually name-checked some of the checks. And this is huge because the forced stimulus recon pays you a lot of money. It pays you upwards of $15,000 to $60,000 of checks before we start adding in checks. What are these checks? They're 3 clusters and 3 add-on checks, and we'll go over each of those starting right now in this bifurcated video in which we zoom through these checks and then get to the other details you need to know across the board. And you want to know about more of these checks individually, watch the Evenings LA 5 o'clock 1-hour special tonight, in which I go into each of these checks more in details. There's at least $15,000 to $60,000 of checks. This incredible recon, and there's 3 clusters and 3 add-ons. First cluster has hazard pay checks for my essential workers, earned income tax credit, $4,000 of care for elder care, $4,000 of checks for young children, $3,600 CTC checks for children, home repairs if you live in a local community, totally free. The Pell Grant for my college students, $550 checks, and $12,500 checks for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. That is the first of 3 add-ons of checks in this incredible Build Back Better Act, forced stimulus recon, that pays you at least about $15,000. Now let's go to the first add-on of checks. It's the first of 3. And that first of 3 add-ons of checks gives you a whopping potential $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. Got in there by Maxine Waters here in Southern California for the purchase of your first home. Wow, just a little bit less than $25,000. Let's go to that second cluster of checks in the Build Back Better Act. Going to be passed, says Joe Biden. Home repairs to weatherize your home and paid leave. Paid leave was actually name-checked by the president during the State of the Union address. He says, pass Build Back Better and get that paid leave out the door. It is $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year, $35,000 annually, $800 a week, and then if you make $15,000, it's about $400 a week. This is if you have to take off from work due to sickness or illness. They also got in there home repairs to weatherize your home. The second add-on of checks was a Joe Biden campaign promise, and it got in there. $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Wow, that is incredible. Now, when we turn to that third cluster of checks, we find deliciousness. We got free internet for all. You want some free internet today? I think you do. Well, reach out to the volunteers on the community page. It's been around since second stimulus. Also in that third cluster, we got in there checks for seniors. We got farmers checks, independent contractors checks, free school meals for all checks, and then the seniors checks, a real great cluster that was actually mentioned by Joe Biden during the State of the Union address. On the House side, they got in there the lower eligibility age of Medicare and also the Medicaid gap fix. But on the Senate side, they vowed to add in their dental, vision, and also hearing, broadening across the board. And there you go. Now, the senators vowed to add other checks to the forced stimulus recon. And the other checks that they vow to add in there, of course, are MSC. MSC is a body of checks that would be added to the recon that already has $15,000 to $60,000 of checks in there. And those other MSC checks, well, they're incredible. The representatives of the Senate say that they want to pay it the same way they paid a third stimulus check. Single individuals, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it, double it. Family of 4, you get it as well, quadruple it. And benefits, SSI, SSDI, you'd also get it. It goes off the most recent tax return. It's not income. It's not taxable. It's offered nationwide. It's paid to adult dependents. And it's really good money. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 after is what they represent for up to 6 months. That's MSC. And that is a body of checks to be added to the Build Back Better Act that already has upwards of $15,000 of checks in there. But guess what? Joe Biden wants all these incredible checks to go out, and he wants them to go out as quickly as possible. Now, there's an opportunity to get a check before that, and you need that check as issues are growing across the country, as wheat prices may surge because of what's happening with Vladimir Putin, and oil and gas situations are changing by the minute. More about that in a second. But the other opportunity to get a check sooner than that is called CR4 stimulus. That is a continuing resolution with an early March deadline in just a few days from now. Watch more about this on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock tonight, our 1 hour special report. The most watched primetime financial show in America this week. And in that recording, I'll go over more about CR4 Stimulus 1.0, but let me tell you the breaking news on it tonight. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding, dedicated, bipartisan support, Republicans in Senate, House, and Democrats all set up. And then someone came knocking. Again. Who? Not Mitch. Joe. Really? I told you so. So last week, Joe Biden came knocking and said, I want some of that money for COVID. And the senator said, no, we're not giving it to you. In fact, Democrats told him that. Then during the State of the Union address, he said, I'm going to come ask for some more money for COVID. And I said he was winking at me or winking at someone. Maybe he's, I think he's winking at me. And I said, Joe, we already said we're not giving you that money. Get it somewhere else. You can get it somewhere else, not for the CR. Well, what happened minutes ago? He had one of his agencies send a letter saying, I want some of that money. Am I worried about it? No. Now, understand it's $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds. How much does he want? He wants $10 billion of the $1.5 trillion. So still more than a $2,000 stimulus check room in there to get out to you. So am I worried about it? No, but I want you to know that he came knocking again, asking for some of the money. And needless to say, I don't think it's happening. So there you go. CR for Stimulus 2 and 3.0. Great ideas. Great possibilities. No inherent deadline, however, at the moment. The House and Senate Democrats merging it across the board, and that merger has not happened yet. So the next thing really on point is SS300. SS300 is the opportunity to raise your benefits up $200 to $300 more per month by swapping out from the current benchmark of COLA, C-O-L-A, to inflation. But here's what's at issue. You want to swap out before this guy, Jay Powell, fixes inflation. And who swaps it out? The Social Security Administrator. Let's go over the breaking news today and what you need to know. SS300 is the concept of replacing your current benchmark of COLA with inflation. Not something I created. It's actually a Joe Biden campaign promise and part of his presidential agenda published on joebiden.com after he became elected. Replacing COLA with inflation, very simple. Now, here's what happens. Your benefits are based upon a benchmark. Once you go up, you never go down. So you want to go up and stay at that level and continue to go up. If you're tied to inflation, guess what happens? Inflation is the highest level right now that it's ever going to be. So you want to step up now when it's high. You don't want to step up on inflation when it's lower because Jay Powell fixes it and brings it back down. Pretty simple? Yeah, it's simple. So Jay Powell has to fix inflation. That's his job to fix inflation. So you want Joe Biden to make that phone call to fix inflation, to switch your benefits from COLA to inflation before Jay Powell fixes it. So how quickly is Jay Powell going to fix it? That's the great news today in view of what's happening with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is creating what you call in the environment a wartime economic uncertainty. We had COVID uncertainty. We had inflationary uncertainty. But now we have wartime uncertainty because we don't know what could be happening in supply chain disruption, energy disruption, and refugee and human rights issues that causes economies to become destabilized because of Vladimir Putin. And Jay Powell knows that. But how much would he say during a congressional hearing this week? Would he say something sort of vague, or would he give us clarity? He has the following opportunities: 5 meetings at the FOMC in this year, 1 per month, and a potential interest rate spike of 1/4 basis point each meeting. Well, he defaulted to exactly 1/4 basis point for this coming meeting, exactly what I predicted. But I didn't predict the rest. I thought he was going to leave the rest after that really unsaid, leave himself a lot of room and not say much more beyond that. He actually did really wonderful stuff for us. He said, We don't know what's going on with Putin. I'm doing a quarter basis point this month. That's fine. And I'm going to stay with a quarter basis point for in the indefinite future for each of these meetings and hope that that's enough because I don't know what's going on with Putin. If inflation gets worse, then maybe I got to do a half basis point, a little bit more severe. But he gave us a roadmap, folks. That is wonderful. He did not have to give us a roadmap more than the next few days, not more than this March meeting. This is huge. And this is why Joe Biden needs to make that phone call right now and pick up the phone and call the Social Security Administrator and say, hey, swap out COLA for inflation. Because guess what? Jay Powell made it clear that inflation is not going down today. It's not going down this month. It's not going down next month. But it will go down. And Joe needs to make that phone call across the board right today. All right, let's go into what else you need to know across the land. The big money that viewers are getting is growing by the minute, and it's third stimulus. And I am just shocked and delighted by how viewers have learned and educated themselves so well from this channel. When we talk about third stimulus, we have generally talked about on this channel rounds. I've been talking about all last week, all this week, 3 to 5 months. Get 3 to 5 months. In the last 24 hours, folks, more and more success stories are coming in where viewers are saying, I got 12 months, I got 10 months, I got 2 rounds of 5 months, a whole year. One viewer got a lifetime. What's going on? Viewers are listening really well that this money is available. And in times of economic uncertainty, which I'm going to get to in a second, like gasoline prices, like inflation, viewers are really doing well. So pull out that newsletter and that membership, pull out that newsletter for the membership or take notes because I'm going to show you how to get this big sums of money. You deserve this money, and this is thousands of dollars. We're cashing checks, and the viewers of this channel on average are cleaning up $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 every day. You're going to reach out to the following 6 places. Your city hall, your city house authority, your county hall, and your county house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. You must do 6 things. 3 things. You must reach out to all 6 places. You must do multiple applications. And you must do multiple rounds. Now, ironically, when I say the multiple rounds, I was referring to 3 to 5 months. Viewers are now getting a whole year. Read that membership newsletter because I detail all these incredible sums of money that you can get and rely upon the nonprofits. Now, when we look at the situation, it's getting better by the minute, folks. Viewers are really, day after day, getting better than they got the day before. We've been doing this for a while. This is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance. It's third stimulus. It's been around since January 2021. But the viewers this week are absolutely killing it. You're going to see more of these success stories tonight on our 1-hour special report, Evenings LA. But let me tell you one of the big success stories that came in overnight. Her name is Lorraine C. And she said, I found out that I qualified for a program that is 70% off my rent for the next 9 years. 9 weeks? No, 9 years. 70% off her rent for 9 years? We have got her on this channel? That is incredible. That's just the first sentence of her message. The second sentence is, then it'll become permanent for my lifetime. Incredible. Lorraine C. is among many viewers in the last 3 days that have now gotten 5 months, 10 months, 12 months. In her case, money over a lifetime for these incredible sums of money. So that's what I want you to do right now. The average viewer of this channel is getting an average about $45,000. This is money. This money was established by Congress, third stimulus, and it's still paying out. Who cares what it's called so long as you get it? The average viewer of this channel is getting $45,000. Get this incredible sums of money. Get it right now. And do not wait. In the second half of this video, we're going to go over the situations unfolding economically at home because of the situation overseas. We'll be looking at the price of Brent crude and why there was an opportunity for one of our allied countries to solve the situation just about an hour ago, and they did nothing. So I have a commentary about them. Then we'll be looking at the other industries that are impacted, not just oil. Next on the horizon, wheat, and how that situation could change by the minute. I have a personal message as I look back at the beautiful town of Hershon and my reporting last night on Evenings LA, how the situation has changed by the minute. I have a preview of tonight's Evenings LA 1-hour broadcast, a special report. You don't want to miss it at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as we look at potentially the next battleground, Odessa. Now, the latest details of what happened in the waters off of Odessa minutes ago. We'll be looking at the refugee situation and how it's just getting started, growing and doubling in numbers overnight. And then we'll be looking at what could be next on the horizon and how Americans still have not really grappled with how severe the situation may unfold. I stand with Ukraine. The situation continues. We'll be back in 60 seconds. But if you need assistance with rent and utilities and more, here's a little bit about the community page. See you back in 60 seconds as this broadcast of Home LA continues, direct from Santa Monica, California.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the reporting continues right now from Santa Monica, California on Home. In the second half of this video, we'll be looking at what's unfolding right now in Odessa, Ukraine, and what could happen by tonight. You want to tune in for that 1 hour special report on Evenings LA at 5 p.m. tonight with the latest on the battleground. But first, we're going to go into the economic situation that unfolded just minutes ago and why some of our allies are not doing what they should be doing in face of the battle with Russia. I have the latest on the financial front right now before we turn to the human rights issues as well. The situation unfolding right at the moment is gasoline, but we're not stopping just there yet. Also on the horizon is the problem about wheat. Let me go in the details of what's unfolding right at the very moment. There's a group of consortiums, one of which called OPEC, and the other one is called OPEC Plus, that had a meeting just minutes ago. And they had an opportunity to release barrels of gasoline in storage that they are not using to bring down the price of gasoline to help world economies. Their choice? No. The ability to answer questions with press? They blocked them. Did they respond to anyone? No. And among those countries were the United Arab Emirates, which has been an ally of the United States in recent years. They did literally nothing. Let me explain the issue at hand. The way the gasoline works is the following. You pump it, and then you store it. Now, you don't have unlimited storage facilities. So once you're finished storing it, and if the storage facility is full, you don't pump anymore. Pretty simple? Yes. So what happens if you have it stored? Then you only pump a little bit at a time, and then use up what's in the storage room. In the case of a consortium like OPEC Plus, they defer to each other to agree upon whether we should release some storage and pump a little bit more, or not do anything. They decide not to do anything. Not good. Here's what OPEC Plus could have done. They could have said, United Arab Emirates, we have a lot of gasoline in storage. Let's release a little bit to those Western allies like Italy and France that need some oil. And then we can produce a little bit more because now we got some more empty space in the storage room. It's as simple as that. That would bring down the price of gasoline, ease dependency of those Western countries like Italy upon Russia for gasoline. But what did they do? They helped no one. Really awful. On Wednesday, OPEC and non-OPEC partners, an influential alliance called OPEC Plus, met and agreed not to do anything. They agreed not to change their plan on output for gasoline for the month of April. This defied logic, and it also caused the situation to get worse. Where's the price of gasoline right now? Brent crude surging to 120. This is an out of control number. That is not sustainable. What's at issue? What's at issue is the following. World economies are dependent upon the price of gasoline to be stable. I'll get to that number in just a second. But if the number is growing too fast, economies go under. Deflation, recession, stagflation, unemployment, and really bad defaulting. It can happen if it's in your country. It can also happen in a country that you're doing business with. So keeping the price of gasoline stable is not only important for your country, but also a country you do business with. And the situation unfolding right now is not being handled appropriately by anyone, both domestically or internationally, because they have a lot of opportunities and none of them have been effectuated. Here's what it is. Very, very simple. When there's less gasoline, the price goes up. Why is there less gasoline right now? Because Russia, not the major exporter of gasoline, but an important provider, is off the food chain. They have now been removed from the food chain, and certain countries are dependent upon that oil. So can those countries get oil from somewhere else? They can. And Russia and other countries have now pivoted and considered other options. So the question at issue is, where would that oil come from? Well, the oil could come from other countries, like United Arab Emirates, not helping anyone. The oil could come from countries like Japan and India, but they don't have enough oil. Domestically, the United States can solve its problems by ramping up production in West Texas. This is a political issue at the moment. Why? Because progressives don't want production of oil to increase because they think it's bad for the environment. That's not a valued argument at the moment because this is a short-term issue. It's an economic stability, which is more important than the environment in the immediate future. But while we can solve our problems, we need to have other countries' problems solved as well. And that is as the current embargo is disrupting the delivery of oil deliveries, not just for this month, but for the month thereafter. And we're not just there yet. We could be the next casualty as well. In the case of the acts of aggression, wheat is a major exporter from that region. And if we cannot come out of these respective countries, then the next issue is what happens after that. You're looking at the beautiful port town of Odessa, and the situation is unfolding by the minute. And it's not particularly good. Tonight on Evenings LALATE, I'll feature more about what's happening in Odessa, but it's a beautiful port town. It is the crown jewel of the area, and many would say. Founded by Catherine the Great in the late 1970s, in the 1700s, the town was the crown jewel of the Russian Empire and a critical port city for the Soviet Union. Today, it's Ukraine's biggest port city and critical for economic survival. Where is it right now? In the battle. In the last few hours, an Estonian-owned cargo ship was sunk off the port of Odessa by Russian forces. This is after the battleground last night in Kherson. The situation in Kherson was hard to report last night on Evenings LALATE because this is footage of how Kherson may have looked a week ago or 2 weeks ago. A beautiful port town just about 120 miles from Odessa, population of 300,000, major metropolis. And guess what? It doesn't look like that tonight. Desecrated by bombing by Russian troops overnight. The advances of the Russian forces are now focusing on Odessa, and I'll have the latest update on Odessa tonight and whether it could be fallen to Russian hands and also desecrated overnight. Meantime, the refugee situation unfolding dramatically. 500,000 refugees, now 1 million, growing, doubling overnight. And we're not done there yet. The situation is that Vladimir Putin's focus on the Black Sea is very critical because what he's trying to do is really reinstitute an imperial era, new era along the Black Sea by focusing on this sort of companion of Odessa and then Kherson, and also focusing on other countries, other towns nearby, like Mykolaiv, which is about 45 miles to the north, says officials. It's more than economic disruption. It's potentially bringing it to the next level. Poland and Romania has received 1 million refugees to date, and that may grow by the minute exponentially. Why? Many of these towns have upwards of nearly 1 million plus citizens. Women and children are fleeing, and their flees are bringing them to Romania and Poland. Men are staying at home in Ukraine to battle the forces of Russia, and the U.S. is now dedicating more funding and also more striker jets for Ukrainian forces to battle Russia tonight. But the situation is very fluid. Finally, my commentary across the board. When you look at the elements at issue, I truly believe that Americans, in some regards, may have thought that this was a 2-day event or a 3-day event or maybe a week event. It's not going to be that, folks. At this point, the situation is changing very dramatically. President Zelensky spoke minutes ago, and some people were sort of surprised by his comments. I wasn't. This is an act of war, and as an act of war, it's going to get very serious very quickly. And I'm very, very proud of the community of this channel that has really stepped up, understood the severity of the situation, and understand the ravages of war, that in an environment in which we live in a often peaceful coexistence here in America, we've never seen this in a generation. Many of us are descended from immigrants. Many of us fled from oppression in another country to come to America. And we are all one people. That's why we stand Ukraine. Vladimir Putin's next act of aggression may be another country after Ukraine. So we're not far from worries of what could be next. A lot of issues to be covered tonight on Evenings LA, that special 5 o'clock broadcast. And the details heat up. I want you to tune in. I'll be going over the latest details on what Jay Powell said and also Joe Biden. Then we'll be looking at the opportunities for CR for stimulus and that Build Back Better Act. We'll be looking at the big money at issue when you look at the question of how quickly Build Back Better Act can be happening. And we'll be looking at the latest update of what's happening on the battleground in Russia. Whether it is Odessa or another neighboring town, or whether it's Poland and its ability to provide assistance, I keep our prayers. I ask you to keep your prayers with all the people that are impacted by these acts of aggression. And send your prayers and keep them in your thoughts and wishes. More tonight on Evenings LA at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.